time has come for the 420th Special Memes Division of the Enlightened Centrist Army Group to unleash its most powerful memetic weapon, Swiftian Normality. The silent majority are crying out for a movement that rejects the idea pathogens festering on the freak left and freak right, and instead puts forward policies that everyone can agree on, whether it's banning social media access for young developing children, or investing in more nuclear power plants to facilitate green energy independence. The success of this Enlightened Centrist movement is dependent upon seizing the memes and the means of cultural production. We must ally ourselves with and secure that memetic territory that is most conducive to our vision. And this is where Swiftian Normality comes into play. This meme, first coined by one Edmund Smirk, whose article I will link below, is in my opinion a meme ripe for occupation by an Enlightened Centrist movement. According to Mr. Smirk, Swiftian Normality is an elusive, vibes-based idea. This is based, by the way. The Enlightened Centrist does not submit to propositional tyranny that sterilizes the mind of most midwits. However, Swiftian Normality can be roughly defined as inoffensive, law-abiding, upwardly mobile middle-class culture. Just imagine everything that makes the American dream possible, and exactly what the new regime, which worships at the altars of diversity, equity, and inclusion, wants to destroy. Taylor Swift and the meme complexes that emanate from her stardom are a perfect example of Enlightened Centrist dynamics, blending together the best aspects of conservatism and progressivism while having mass appeal that transcends beyond the narrow domain of politics. Think about it for a moment. She's a feminist icon for obvious reasons and a hero and inspiration to millions of young women. She stood up for herself in her iconic feud against one who can be fairly described as a toxic male record producer. She's openly Christian, which puts her at direct odds with the satanic degeneracy that seems to characterize Hollywood nowadays. She doesn't sell sex in her music. She's a hopeless romantic who sings about finding a long-term monogamous partner. But most importantly, and people are going to crucify me for this, she makes great music. She does. She doggedly pursues quality, and I'm sure she puts on highly memorable and spectacular shows for her millions of devoted followers. This is why Taylor Swift and Swiftian Normality is of such memetic significance. When it comes to affecting people's behavior, we must remember that debate and propositional logic only speak to one's rational mind, which has a limited effect on behavior. Memes and memeplexes, on the other hand, operate at the level of the emotional mind and have a significant effect on behavior. This is the theater of battle in which the great meme wars are fought, and as members of the Special Memes Division, it's up to us to determine which memes we should deploy to ensure victory for the silent majority. Consider as a contrasting example one of the more powerful memeplexes on the rise in our culture: Christian nationalism. This decidedly right-wing meme is growing in popularity not due to its superior propositional and logical articulations, but because it appeals directly to the emotional and religious underpinnings of human psychology. If the Enlightened Centrists are to compete with a memeplex like Christian nationalism, we must ally ourselves with a faction that possesses memetic weaponry on par with that of a religion. And that faction is the Swifties. Remember, there are still many stupid people, most of them Destiny fans, who desperately cling to the idea that Jordan Peterson is wrong when he says everyone is religious. Jordan Peterson is correct about science being a religious enterprise, right?
I don't think so. Because the way that and I think most people probably, but I'll just use myself, define religion is a belief in some kind of God and some kind of creator.
I don't believe that's how most people
Okay, well, then if you want to talk about like any...
Recognizing that everyone is religious is important in understanding the true nature of the memetic landscape. For example, it is quite clear that the emotional and psychological response people have to Taylor Swift's music is identical in form, fit, and function to the emotional and psychological response people have to religious music. And much like religions, it's not just the music itself, it's the community, it's the concerts, the shows, the psychological effects that are felt long after someone attends a Taylor Swift concert because they talk about it with their friends and they connect with their parents who took them to that concert. To ignore this memetic reality, the effect that these memes have on people's minds, is to lose the meme war. This is why I propose that the Enlightened Centrists ally themselves with the Swifties so as to embed ourselves in the downstream memetic soup that is Swiftian Normality. If you want to win the meme war, you must align yourself with Swiftian Normality. We should also consider that there are few strategic positions that are as well fortified against the idea pathogens coming from the freak left and freak right. The freak left hates Swiftian Normality because it represents whiteness and neoliberal feminism and all the buzzwords that overprivileged weaklings throw around in order to satiate their reflexive empathy so they can feel like they're making a positive difference in the world when they're not. From the other flank, the freak right hates Swiftian Normality because it's feminine, and the freak right, for various psychoanalytic reasons, hate anything that even has a whiff of female empowerment.
As long as Taylor Swift remains, we'll call it a free agent, we will behave a certain way. The second she makes the wrong choice, it is absolutely incumbent upon us to punish that bitch for doing that.
So what tactics are most appropriate for securing the memetic territory that is Swiftian normality? Against the freak left, all we really have to do is let them eat themselves like they always do. Their hyper-novel postmodern memes are parasitic, and they'll die out as soon as more people in the center come into contact with them and realize that calling poor white people privilege is probably not as progressive as you think it is. Resisting the freak right is more difficult. Their memes are older. Their dogmatic appeals to hyper-patriarchal religious traditions, for example, have a higher degree of memetic fitness due to their once adaptive application in a pre-modern environment. Of course, others on the freak right are just degenerate attention whores whose adherence to their own stupid ideas will predictably lead to their own destruction. In either case, we can once again borrow from the meme-smithing capabilities of Edmund Smirk and advance the highly adaptive meme complex called the Girldad right. To quote Smirk, the Girldad right is about preparing your daughter for a hard life while hoping that she has an easy one. Central to the achievement of this goal is being a positive masculine role model who takes an active interest in all those girly things she enjoys doing that you would otherwise ignore. It's not about sacrificing your fundamental values by becoming a squish, it's about instilling them in the next generation by remaining normal. The advancement and celebration of the Girldad right and its associated meme complexes is a winning move for the Enlightened Centrist movement. What meme better encapsulates the balanced dynamic between the masculine and the feminine than a good father acting as the provider for his young daughter? Who does the average person respect more? A degenerate and psychologically incongruent man-child spewing hatred towards women? Or a man who loves and cares for his daughters almost as much as he loves and cares for his wife? It seems quite clear that the widespread deployment of pro-Swifty and pro-Girldad memes against the freak left and freak right is the proper play. While Swiftian normality is no substitute for the cultural Christianity that serves as the memetic bedrock for enlightened centrism, its adjacency, and might I say ubiquity, makes it a territory worth seizing. At the end of the day, the enlightened centrists will profit mightily from a strong alliance with the Swifties and the American middle-class normality that they represent. These are the battle plans. More to come soon. Until then, good luck and Godspeed.